I've not started streaming. Let me just double check on YouTube. I haven't. Okay, fantastic. Okay, so now we're streaming on YouTube in 3, 2, 1. There we go. Okay. So ultimately, an illusion, we need to define it, because for most people, they, oh, time is an illusion. I'm just going to sit at home and do absolutely nothing for the rest of my life. That's fantastic, brother. But that's not how the world works. You have to understand the reality of nature, but then you have to act practically in a way that is in alignment to how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants you to be. So it's a play between the form and the formless, between khalq and amr, between ruh and the physical mind body, right? So it's a mix of the two. And then we're going to talk about Wal Asr, the Surah Al Asr in the Quran. And Asr is such a beautiful word because it has so much meaning. It's kind of like the end of the day. The day ends, according to the Muslims, with the setting of the sun. So the new day doesn't begin at midnight for us. The new day begins at Maghrib for us. So it's like that final run and final rush in Surah Al Asr. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala chooses that time slot called Al-Asr, which is, right then and there, and you've got that final sprint towards the end of the day to create a sense of urgency. And then Asr also means, man ya'asur al-shay is to squeeze, right? So it's kind of like, there's this kind of like pressure, and this pressure to kind of give it your absolute all. It's like that final sprint in the marathon, right? To give it your absolute all. And what is it? Why are we laughing with all sorts of muscles on YouTube? What are your thoughts on Neville Goddard books? I just read some and I don't know what to say. I really want your opinion. Inshallah, we'll talk about that. We'll get to Neville. We'll get to Goddard. He's an interesting individual. Ma'alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh for everyone on YouTube. Glad to see you there. Those that are tired of Instagram and want a real platform, and head over to YouTube for a better feed, inshallah ta'ala, at least visual. But you can stay here. This hangs up in an hour, right? Instagram, I can only do a live for an hour. YouTube will keep going, inshallah. Alaikum assalam. Dearborn, mashallah. Come to Dearborn. I'm heading to Detroit, and I've got a trip to Boston. Those are the two places where I'm set to go this year. But inshallah, salam from New York City. Beautiful. Wa alaikum assalam rahmatullah. So today we're talking about the significance of time. And I chose the word significance because although, time is ultimately an illusion, but it's a very practical illusion. And we want to understand what illusion means. An illusion simply means things are not what they appear to be. So you're not really seeing them for what they truly are. Okay? And what we call time, which I like, Rupert Spira, one of my favorite, isn't something that passes. It's something that we create. And he also said, time is an illusion. The more we delve into it, the more we realize that it is simply a measurement of movement, not a force in itself. And another nice quote here, he says, you cannot step twice into the same river, for other waters are continually flowing on. Time flies over us, but leaves its shadow behind. Time is an illusion of the mind, an experience created by our thoughts as they pass through eternity. That's beautiful. And finally, time is a created thing. To say I don't have time is like saying I don't want to. It's an objection to God. You're not truly surrendering. What do we surrender to? And how does time play a role in terms of our own surrendering? So let's see. Let's go through this. So page 120 in the book, The Significance of Time. Allah tells us in Surah Al-Asr that our activity in time, or how we conduct ourselves in time, can lead to either our failure or our success. So it's a very serious matter, because Allah talks about khusr. Innal insana lafi khusr. You want to be new age yogi, you're present all the time, and khasir, you're at a state of loss. If you don't do if you're not busy in time with the following 4 things, then you're in a state of loss. It's Allah's words. He says, وَالْعَصْرِ إِنْ أَعُوذُ بِاللَّهِ مِنَ الشَّيْطَانِ الرَّجِيمِ بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر. So is it by the passage of time? Surely humanity is in a grave loss, except those who have faith, do good, and urge each other to the truth, and urge each other to patience and perseverance. Quran, chapter 103. Subhanallah, subhanallah. There couldn't be a better word to take an oath on in this surah. By taking an oath on Asr, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is bringing emphasis to the importance of what is to come next. The usage of the word Asr denotes not just time, but the passage of time. What's more, Asr here denotes the last portion of the day before. Here it's a mistake. I have before sunrise. It should be before sunset. It's the final sprint in the relay race. This is where you have to give it your all. And finally, Asr in Arabic means to apply pressure or to squeeze. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants us to feel the pressure so we get to work and make the most of our allotted time. So if this was the only surah we had access to in the Quran, it would suffice for us. Alhamdulillah. It is profound. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, as time passes, if you're not realized in the following four qualities, if you're not busy with the following, then you're at a loss. 1, Iman. Have to be realized in Iman. 2, righteous conduct. 3, calling others towards the deen of Islam. And 4, having patience. And here it's important, thank you Xeyes for the generous donation, barakallah feek. Because on YouTube we have, let's celebrate their first super on a live stream. Fantastic. Let's celebrate, brother. How do you celebrate? MashaAllah. We'll give you a nice heart here. Is there a balloon we can trigger? MashaAllah. Let's see. Do our best. But barakallah feek. So we need to change our perspective and work to strengthen our Iman. So whenever someone comes and tells me like, I'm weak, man, I don't have the motivation to do acts, but I know so much about Islam, it's not the knowledge that motivates in and of its own. It's Iman. It's the strength of your light inside. Are you reciting Quran? Are you praying on time? Are you praying 5 times salah? Are you missing your fajr? Are you doing dhikr? Are you remembering Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the daytime and the evening time? Are you reciting the masnoon du'as? Are you praying tahajjud? These are all things that strengthen one's Iman. So in order, if whenever you find your righteous conducts are taking a hit, amilu salihat, then you know that there's an issue in terms of the strength of your Iman. So always keep that in mind. So we need to change our perspective and work to strengthen our Iman so that we busy ourselves day and night with righteous deeds. وَقُلِ اعْمَلُوا, Allah says, you got to get busy, man. You got to work. You got to put in the effort. It's not just all hocus pocus, lovey-dovey presence and la ilaha illallah and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is all there is. And no, it doesn't work that way. It's la ilaha illallah Muhammadun Rasulullah. True, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala acts through these veils, the veils of multiplicity, right? The instruments in this world, be they geographical, be they seismological, be they whatever, emotional, psychological. But ultimately, Allah did create this world, which is the divine matrix, and we'll get to that. But there's a purpose behind it. It's not abatha. It's not Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala just entertaining himself. Everything's done for a reason. We need to change this perspective. But however, as we see from point number 3, which is calling others to Islam, it's not enough that we practice the deen ourselves. It's not enough that we just practice our day. It's like, oh, mashallah, I've realized the reality of everything, and alhamdulillah, I'm praying 5 times a day and I'm doing it. Yeah, but there's a responsibility put on your shoulder by Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam to deliver the message of Tawheed and call people towards وَمَنْ أَحْسَنُ قَوْلًا مِمَّنْ دَعَى إِلَى اللَّهِ. And Allah filled the Quran with the stories of prophets, which is your user manual, to see how you're going to deal with humanity and what this responsibility given to you is. Most people understand that salah is fard, that fasting is fard, that zakah is fard, but most people are oblivious to the fact that ad-da'wah fardu ayn, that da'wah is also inviting people, calling people to Allah, is incumbent, is obligatory, is fard, is wajib on every single person. So he says it's not enough that we practice the deen ourselves. We must have concern for others. Because the thing is, it's so easy to kind of like worship alone in a room, nobody, there's no one to really test your patience. Because the minute you get out there in the world and begin to invite people towards Allah and begin to call people towards Rasulullah ﷺ was called what? As-Sadiqul Amin by everyone in Quraysh. He was the truthful one, the trustworthy one. The minute he said قُولُوا لَا إِلَهَ إِلَّا اللَّهُ تُفْلِحُوا, when he called them towards Allah, he became majnoon, he became crazy. They called him crazy, they called him a magician, they called him a poet, they called him all sorts of things. And the first to stand up against him some of them were those closest to him. So what's going to happen? This is why right after tawasi bil haqq, Allah talks about patience, because you're going to need it when you deal with people. And it's going to help you grow spiritually. How will your mirror be polished if you're irritated by every rub? We must have concern for others and call them towards Allah. As well, as long as we're focused on ourselves, people will perceive us and call us righteous. MashaAllah, such a righteous individual. He prays, he this, he that. He gets up for tahajjud. He's always in dhikr. MashaAllah, tabarakallah, wali of Allah, and all that thing. It gets to your head, man. You want to humble yourself? Go knock on someone's door and call him towards Allah. That will for sure humble you. He said, I say here, as long as we're focused on ourselves, people will perceive us as righteous. The moment we begin calling others towards that truth, we will face resistance and suffer. And here, this will require the last condition in the surah in which we will need to put patience into practice. The second half of this surah has to do with our responsibility as followers of the final messenger of Allah, and we'll unpack this dimension of our deen in the second part of this manual that I hope to launch later this year, my next book, inshallah. For now, let's focus on the first 2 points. Any time that passes without Iman-infused righteous deeds counts against us. So one thing is the perspective, to see it all, what you're going through as creation of Allah, the difficult situation, the easy situation, your child giving you a hard time, your son or daughter giving you a hard time, maybe your spouse arguing with you, whatever it may be that you're going through, to see it as being created by Allah in order to test you. And that's the Iman part. The Amilu Salihat part is the response to that. And we're human beings, so we're going to err, you're going to sin, and you're not always going to win, you're not always going to be perfect. That's what tawbah is for, that's what istighfar is for. But you're going to have to try and put an effort and struggle to not react, but to respond. Because reaction comes from a space of ego. But response is kind of like comes from presence. It's like, well, how does Allah want me to respond here? And what was the way in which the Prophet ﷺ embodied that type of response and manifested it? And that's how I need to have enough knowledge of God's commands and the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ to know how to respond. When people push back, when people resist, when people are mean, when I go through difficult situations, when I go through good situations. So when something good happens to us, we're like, oh, mashallah, that's from Allah, man. I prayed tahajjud last night, everything. Well, what about when things start going bad? Everything's from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but we attribute that to our nafs, to the ego, always. So that's that, but then you have to do it with concern for others, so with empathy. وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالْحَقِّ. It's not just about you. The world doesn't revolve around you alone. So you have to have concern for others, and then whatever happens in return to your response, also be patient with that and accept it. Have rida when it comes to that. So we can't blame the times for our current state, nor can we blame time for our problems by saying we just don't have enough time. Many people, I'm so busy, I don't have. Well, first of all, you choose not to have time because you choose where to put your focus and effort in the day. So this, I don't have time, is typically things children say. Mature adults, they never say I don't have time. They say, I choose not to put my attention and effort into this thing that you want me to do. That's what, but it's not that you don't have time, it's a choice. Apparently something else is more of a priority to you than this, whatever this may be. However, we choose how we spend our time. We are accountable for it. It's all on us, ourselves. Imam Shafi'i said, he says, we blame time though we commit the wrongs. Time has no evil except the sins we commit in time. So time in and of itself is not a good or a bad thing. It's God's matrix. It's how we're supposed to, go about our lives. But now we're going to delve a bit deeper and break down time so you really understand what it's like. And this is where it gets matrixy. So there's that practical aspect, which is Muhammadun Rasulullah, for how you fill your time. كَانَ يَذْكُرُ اللَّهَ فِي كُلِّ أَحْوَالِهِ أو أحياني. The Prophet ﷺ was in a constant state of dhikr, meaning obedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's our live in the moment. This is what, for a believer, it's what's God's command in the present moment. And then surrendering Islam, submitting to it wholeheartedly, Iman, for the sake of Allah with sincerity, seeing the situation coming from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What book is he reading? He's reading his own book called the Afterlife Manual, Every Muslim's Guide to Happily Ever Hereafter. You can find and access this book on Amazon. Again, the Afterlife Manual, Every Muslim's Guide to Happily Ever Hereafter. So a deeper dive into time. Warning. Dun, da, da, da. This section on time is quite deep and heavy to comprehend. So you should read it several times. No pun intended. Let's examine our actual experience of time. We'll soon see that time is a useful illusion. Have you ever had an experience in the past? So now we're talking about experiences, okay? We definitely had many thoughts of the past, but even those thoughts, when we experienced them, we experienced in the present moment. So if I tell you, what did you do yesterday? You go into your bank of thoughts, memories, and you say, okay, yesterday I had this for dinner, that for lunch, or whatever it may be. Where is that experience of those thoughts taking place? Yesterday? They're taking place now. Okay, so now let's talk about the future. The future, I want you to imagine what you're going to do tomorrow. Okay, you close your eyes, say tomorrow, I'm gonna, sit down and, have a very nice meal with my family. We're gonna have pasta and this and that. And you begin to imagine. I say, where's this happening? In the future? He says, no, those thoughts, when are they happening? Now. Okay, so thoughts of the future happen now. And when do they unfold? Do they unfold in the future? Let's see who's paying attention. Let's look at the chat. When do they unfold? See on the chat on YouTube. There we go. Sorry, it was stuck for a bit. I say, when do they unfold? Now, exactly. So the thoughts of the past, so your memories, you don't have a past. Isn't that trippy? You don't actually have a past. The past is in your head because you access it, and those thoughts that you're accessing now. You've never had an experience outside of now. But now is not a series of moments, or like, it's not like these little, there's like, this is the future point and this is the past. And the now is this like very small, tiny, infinitesimal unit of the now. And then there's a bunch of nows. No, there's only one ever present now. The now is timeless. The now is the ruh. What these New Age people refer to, did the feed cut off? I don't know. I don't think so. Yes, only the now is real. Well, so then your thoughts in your head are not real? The base, it's not a fully accurate statement. We'll get to that. But really, thoughts that are where you're accessing the past are typically called memory. And thoughts where you're typically imagining the future are called imagination. But they're both thoughts. And they always happen here and now. So breakfast this morning and dinner last night and this live are happening in the exact same now. That's the trippy part. You've never, ever had an experience in the past or the future. And if we define time as, I feel so trippy now. Wisdom or wisdom. I'm not sure how you pronounce it. It's like, I feel so trippy now. Now is trippy. You trip up. The mind doesn't like the now because the mind can't access the now. That's why you never live in the moment. You are the moment. You know, trying to find the now is like trying to look for your eyes. Can you imagine? What? Natalia is like, what is he on about? How many joints did he roll this morning? Leaves it. It's like Sheikh Osama is like, oh yeah, there is no past. There is no future. There's only the now. Yeah, so it's true though. You've never had an experience outside of the present moment. And if we define time as the duration between two events, right? Let's actually define time as the duration between two events. So this is the only event I know of is the event that unfolds in the now. This is event number 1. This live, this is event number 1. Me holding my coffee on a live. This is event number 1. Now the duration, time is the duration between two events. So now I have to find a second event that's not in the now. So can you go and travel in your mind to the past? He's like, what do you, can you, yes you can, but can you go to the past? Can you actually travel back to the past? You can't, nobody can do that. Can you travel into the future? Can you, me and you? No, you can't. Now you can think about the past, but those thoughts about the past are happening now. So go ahead and try to find me event number 2. The event number 1 is this, the live where I'm holding this. And that's happening in the now. We need another event that's not now. We need an event in the past. But there is no event in the past because it's always unfolding now. Oh, we need an event in the future, but when it unfolds in the now. The future is just an idea in my head. And the past, after the now unfolds, is just a memory, another thought in my head. So the thoughts are happening now and experience is always happening now. So there's only one event. I can't find the other one. I'm looking all over the place for it. So if you can't find it, it's not there. And if it's not there, you can't have time because time is the duration between something in the past and the now, or the now and the future. And if there is no future and there is no past except as constructs of your head, then there's only the now. So experience is always, and people are like, I need to understand this. And then they're like, they put on their thinking cap. Do 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 do, and they're thinking, and the problem is every effort you put into understanding, into experiencing, not understanding, every effort you put into trying to experience the now is a step away from it. Because trying to live in the now is trying to stand up and take a step towards yourself. You're already the now. The ruh. The body mind is you're already the now. So like that's what I mean when I say trying to find the now is like trying to look for your eyes. You can see everything outside of it, so to speak, because they're objectified. But the eye can't see itself. Right? Can't. Although it's because it is itself. It's so trippy, but it's true. So this whole time, when I was in history class, I was wasting my time. No pun intended. Yeah, history is what someone wrote. The now, what really happened. History is what someone wrote. The past, or the now, is what really happened. Oh my God. So you mean this whole time we've been just living in the now? Yeah, until you get up in your head and you start to like trip up on how you how come this is happening to me and all the problems in my life? And I'm just like, and there's this issue. What issue do you have now? If there are no thoughts, what issue do you have now? So all your issues and problems and anxiety and depression exist because you identify with thought. You think your thoughts are you. How are your thoughts you? If you say, I think, there is someone thinking. If you say, my hand, so it's mine. The hand is mine. It's not me. It's mine. It belongs to me. There's duality. So just in the way you express things, my headache, my hand, my body. So if it belongs to you, it can't be you. What is that? I have a headache. I this, that. I think. It's not I think, therefore I am. It's I am, therefore I think. So what is all that stuff? What is it there for? So what I'm saying is, time is the construct of the mind. Think of it as time is what eternity looks like when filtered through thought. And space is what infinity looks like when filtered through perception. So it's like, think of the soul, the ruh, the spirit, and you take the mind, which is made of thinking and perceiving, and you place it on the ruh. It's not really, the ruh is just modulating as mind, but just for the analogy. And you place this virtual reality headset made of thinking and perceiving. So every time you have a thought, time is born. You experience time. But really all time is what eternity, Allah is infinite and eternal. Time is what eternity feels like when experienced through, when the ruh, if the ruh is looking through that virtual reality headset called the mind, let's call it the mindset, placed on top of the ruh. And the ruh is looking out through that instrument. فَأَيْنَمَا تُوَلُّوا وُجُوهَكُمْ فَثَمَّ وَجْهُ اللَّهِ. Wherever you turn, there is the face, there is the essence of God. The essence of God I know to be infinite and eternal. And if the essence of God is infinite and eternal, every place I look has to be infinite and eternal. It is. But you're only perceiving it as space and time. You're not perceiving. If someone can, Sarah, wala amran alayki, if I may ask you to please do me a favor and remove that thing from the ding ding thing, because I think they're unloading and loading. It's in the kahraba over there. It's a black box. You have to kind of go through, and then just, if you go between the stairs, just unplug it. And leave it there. I'll plug it once we're done. Barakallah fiki, jazakillah khair. So it's like ding, ding. So like a little bit less of that, inshallah. So if we are the now, why do we tie our camel for the future? Because of course you have to, because the world is khalq and amr. There's form and you have a choice because Allah decided to give you choice. Now we're talking about realities. Don't mix the two. We'll talk about Muhammadun Rasulullah and the practical aspect. We're talking about it. But you have to understand first the reality of nature, the reality of things, and then we'll add that layer to it. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala at this point created, so then you look out and instead of seeing eternity, instead of seeing infinity, you see space because you're looking through the virtual reality headset of perception. The mind is made, the mindset, the virtual reality mindset is made of thinking and perceiving. Because everything you experience in your life can be boiled down to thinking and perceiving. Well, what do you mean? This is a microphone. No. That's what the mind calls it and labels it. What is its reality? I see it. That's seeing. I touch, so I sense it. It feels very weird. So there's sensation, texture, right? And I hear it, and then when I speak through it, there's this sound. So an apple, you see it, you want to drink some coffee, Bismillah. I love Turkish coffee. May Allah reward the Turks for inventing this thing. Okay. Remember Neo, the Matrix? Taste is a construct of the mind. All there is to taste is the awareness of it. All there is to thoughts is the awareness of it. ASMR, yes. You are getting sleepy. Okay. So the bottom line is what here? Why are we talking about this stuff? Is it useful? It's useful because don't take life so seriously, man. The reason half the ummah is depressed is because they take their life too seriously. You can't take it seriously and you have to take it seriously at the same time. So don't take it so seriously, like the world doesn't revolve around you, like there's much more to it. And it's ultimately all God's, matrix. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when you're far from Him, when you're not praying, He's going to create something called depression and shove it in your heart. It's a creation. He's going to shove something called anxiety in your heart. He's going to shove fear. سَأُلْقِي فِي قُلُوبِ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا الرُّعْبَ. Allah says, oof. One of the battles, I'm gonna instill fear in the hearts of your enemy. Oh, so fear is a creation of Allah. Yes, emotions too. So good luck. If you're far from Allah, He says, وَمَنْ أَعْرَضَ عَنْ ذِكْرِي. Whoever turns his back to my obedience, فَإِنَّ لَهُ مَعِيشَةً ضَنْكًا ونحشره يوم القيامة أعمى قال رب لم حشرتني أعمى وقد كنت بصيرا قال كذلك أتتك آياتي فنسيتها وكذلك اليوم تنسى. He said, whoever turns away from my obedience, I'm going to give him danak. Danak, ضَنَك, ضِيق, constriction, noon, nakad. The thing that the wife and husband always practice on each other. بِنَكْدُ عَبَاد. إِنْتَ رَجِل نِكِد. إِنْتِ سِتْ نِكَدِيَّة. You've heard that, right? Nakad is like complaining and nagging and nakad, okay? And qadar, problems after problems. Because if you don't come to Allah out of His sheer grace and mercy, He'll pull you towards Him with the chains of tribulation, problems, emotions. It's God's matrix. These are God's soldiers. Junudullah. Depression is one of God's soldiers. Good luck if He hits you up with it, right? And then you try to fix it by going to see a psychiatrist he himself is depressed. He doesn't even know. If you're seeing someone that is, I'm not against going to a mental health practitioner, but go to one who understands, who's a believer, that understands that the root cause of your problem, if you're not praying and you're not obeying Allah, is that. And he's sitting there trying to give you pills and beating around the bush. Take care of the main issue. I'm talking as Muslims. As non-Muslims, we got to take them step by step. But that's the problem. You don't need these pills that you're popping If Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala decides to cure you, can He not cure you? Yes, He can. Don't stop taking your pills. You're going to come and say, Brother Osama said it's all in Allah's hand. I'm cured, man. It takes time. It takes time. It takes time. Yeah. All in due time. How to keep a balance between taking life seriously? By seeing that it's, first of all, like the fact that it's God's divine matrix. It's a game. It's a simulation. But understanding the rules of the game and understanding that your eternal future is going to be determined through how you like perceive this world and understand it, and how you act in it. So your actions are recorded. So it becomes serious in that fashion. But when you busy yourself, you've got your tahajjud, you got your dhikr, you got 90% of the ummah is not even praying salah. It's like, brother, I have a hard time waking up for Fajr. Of course, you're playing Twitch and you're on your Nintendo and your PlayStation till 3 in the morning. You want to wake up at 5 to pray Fajr? Cut me some slack here. I sleep whenever I want. I do whatever I want. And somehow I want all this to work out for me. Look at the lives of the companions and how they were. So no, Osama did not say to stop taking meds. Osama said that you need to understand the root cause of the issue. Okay, that's what Osama is saying. And then slowly, if Allah cures you, then you won't need the meds. But most people are suffering from these mental health conditions because Allah is making them suffer, ultimately, to bring them back to His deen. Most people are so far from the religion. They have all these problems in their lives. And it's kind of like you walk in a room and the room is dark. And you're looking for your keys. But you're looking in all the wrong places. Why are you looking? Because your keys are basically where the light is not shining. But you're only looking at where there's light. You're not realizing it's hidden right there. So sometimes everybody's trying, you walk into a room that's dark and you take out your sword and you're trying to get rid of the darkness with your sword. You can swing all you want, be the strongest man in the world. All you need is to turn on the light. Darkness is the absence of light. Some Sufis used to believe that there is no such thing as darkness, that it is that just the absence of light. And there's difference of opinion on the matter. Needed this live, Sheikh. Wow. Okay, I'm glad you had. I'm glad you found it to be wow, inshallah. Let's examine our actual experience of time. We'll soon see that time is a useful illusion. Have you ever had an experience in the past? I kind of went through all this just naturally without reading it from the book, but really quickly, we definitely had many thoughts of the past, but even those thoughts, when we experienced them, we experienced in the present moment. Your actual experience of the world is always in the now or the present moment. In fact, the breakfast yesterday or this morning, when you actually had it, the time was now. The dinner we will have tonight or the next, when we have it, it will be now. The experience manifests and then disappears. Our access to that experience is now limited to memory. But we're not talking about our thoughts, memory, or imagination. We're talking about our actual experience. Have you ever had an actual experience in the past? Has anyone ever had an experience in the past? Has anyone ever experienced the future? Why do you think that when you're really anxious to get something, I ordered this thing on Amazon and it was like prime delivery, bro. So it's gonna arrive in like 48 hours, man, because I've got like Amazon Prime, bro. And then he orders it. He's like really anxious to, can't wait till I get it. Can't wait till I get it. Can't wait till I get it. Check the mail. Did it arrive yet? Check the app. Orders. Is it here yet? No. It's out for delivery. That line's not moving. It needs to move. You're just sitting there. You're like a crack. Taking up heroin, you're like all up in your head, right? And then the bottom line is what? You finally get it. Oh, the package arrived. Take out the knife. And you open it up. And what do you find? There it is. And then there's this immense sense of just like relief. And you think like, I'm so happy right now because I finally got what I wanted. That's not why you're happy. You're happy because all this time that you were waiting to get that thing, there was a lot of resistance in your head. There was a lot of, you didn't want to be here and now. You couldn't, when is it going to come? When is it going to come? When is it going to come? Your mind is just rushing, right? You have this anxiety. You're excited to get it. And then finally, when you get it, so the mind just, and you dip into the now. Because the now is the absence of resistance to what is. And when you're constantly in your head, you're not in the now, you're in the construct of past or construct of future, memory and imagination. And you're a ping pong ball between those two. So that's what builds anxiety. But when you're anchored in the moment, because you finally got what you wanted, that relief is the release of tension, of resistance to what is, because you no longer need to resist the now, because here it is. And you dip into infinity, and that happiness is best you returning to your true nature. You understand? So that's why do you think time passes really fast when you enjoy what you're doing? Because you're like, your attention is kind of brought into the thing at hand. So you love to fix things. You're a jeweler, and as you're working and like really enjoying your craft, so your attention is brought into the now, and you're no longer worried about what's coming, or reminiscing about the past, or you're like, you're fully here and now. So when you're fully here and now, there's no mind activity as much. And when you're not plugged into the matrix, what do you think unplugging from the matrix means? Living in the now? It means being your true self. And so when you unplug from the matrix and you're here and now, you're in the present moment. So you time travel, so to speak. You're beyond time. And so you're like, oh, where did that hour go? But when you're just like, I don't want to be here. You're sitting in classroom. Remember those school years? I'm like, when is this class going to fit? Because you're up in here. So time feels like it's like really, really slow. And the hour feels like ages. See how it works? So if you want to, like, what is dhikr? Dhikr is being, presence, remembrance. But what are you remembering? That remembrance of like wait a second. I am the ruh. So rather than like you're sitting there and you're like, when you're in a true state of remembrance and you're anchored in the present moment, if you have access to what? It's a window unto the divine. You feel serenity. Ala bi dhikrillah. Ala bi dhikrillah. Also here could mean in the state of presence. تطمئنُّ القلوب. The hearts find tranquility. They find peace. Because as-salam is here and now. Oof. So it's really hard being somewhere you don't want to be, and really easy being somewhere you want to be. Life takes a completely different spin, So, have you ever had an experience in the past? No. Has anyone ever had an experience in the past? No. Has anyone ever experienced the future? No. Or is it simply a thought in the form of imagination that is also unfolding now? Any experience we have is fleeting or perishing. Its very nature is that it comes and it goes. It never remains. Like they say, it too shall pass, right? You've heard that saying. What I'm saying here is that time is a meaningful and useful illusion. We only experience the present now. And by the way, another trippy thing for another day is that experience is always one. Experience is never dual. That my hand on the mic is not, it's my mind that labels duality, subject, object, my hand on the mic. But if you remove the senses from it, then all there is just a vibration, which is basically awareness. All of it is one. And again, another hint at the now and the time and the mind is when you're in deep sleep, you don't feel time. And it's not a coincidence that when you fall into deep sleep, you no longer experience time. You look at the clock, it's midnight, you go to sleep, you wake up, you look at the clock, it's 6 a.m., but you didn't dream at all. You were in deep sleep the whole time, assuming. You wake up and if it's like, how long were you sleeping? Like a moment. But you look and it's like 6 hours pass. You're like, whoa. Because the mind in deep sleep is not there to register the experience. So what all you are at that point is ruh. يَتَوَفَّى الْأَنفُسَ. There's no longer mind. The nafs is the mind. So, subhanallah. So in your waking state, there's thinking and perceiving. And then when you fall asleep, there's thinking without perceiving. So you're one layer closer to your true self, ruh. But there's still dreams. So you feel time to some degree, right? But it bends in dreams. It's not the same as when you're waking. And then when you go into deep sleep, thinking or imagination is removed. So without thinking and perceiving, without mind, what's left? Mind is khalq, is creation. The amr of Allah. And so the mind is not there to register. But then when the mind's not there, you wake up, you're like, I didn't experience time because mind wasn't there. It's mind that registers time. It's the movement of thought. With every thought, time is created. So when you're in a state of deep sleep, first thing is you think, oh, I wasn't there. There's a absence of awareness. Rupert Spira says this best. He says it's not an absence of awareness, it's an awareness of absence. What is aware of itself? Awareness, ruh. But there's no mind to register experience, form. So that's another hint at it. So as long as your mind is heavily active and you're engaging it, there's that illusion of time. So what is the matrix? The matrix is mind, when you define mind as thinking and perceiving. So the activity or movement of mind is that what I'm saying here is that time is a meaningful and useful illusion. We only experience the present, now. Time is born at every instance that our minds are active. Time, and here this is a beautiful quote from Rupert Spira, he says, time is what eternity looks like when filtered through thought. Time is what eternity looks like when filtered through thought. The activity or movement of the mind creates the illusion of time. What is the mind? The mind is not the container of our thoughts and perceptions. The mind is our thoughts and perceptions. So every time we have a thought, time is born. Time is the matrix, and matrix is God's testing field. لِيَبْلُوَكُمْ. Remember this verse? الَّذِي خَلَقَ الْمَوْتَ وَالْحَيَاةَ لِيَبْلُوَكُمْ أَيُّكُمْ أَحْسَنُ عَمَلًا. He who created time, death and life, to test you, which of you is best in conduct. Death is a symbol for the end of something, just as life is the symbol for the beginning of something. Something with a beginning and an end is in time. Allah is saying He created time to test us. Who is best amongst us in conduct? And if time is born every time we have a thought, a feeling, or a perception is a mistake here. Perception is not born time is not born through perception. Space is born through perception. Then time is born whenever we have an experience. Time is, by its nature, human experience. Jazakillah khair, Ukhti Manal. Thank you for your generous contribution. Barakallah fiki. Jazakallah khair, brother. May Allah grant you and everyone watching this now and in the future Jannatul Firdaus. Ameen, ya Ukhti. Ameen. Thank you so much. Barakallah fiki. Ameen, ameen, ya Rabb. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give you the same. Allahu Akbar. Always very, mashallah, generous. I don't think there's been a live where she hasn't given something. May Allah reward her. Okay. But this is not, nobody has to give. This is the optional through this. You get excited about something, you want to donate something, alhamdulillah. You don't, it's all good, inshallah. Okay, so But if experiences have a beginning and an end, what is it that observes or witnesses those experiences? Ruh. Are we the witnesses of our own experiences? When a thought appears, that same thought eventually disappears. So if you were your thought, every time a thought left you, a piece of you would go with it. It just doesn't make sense. Because you always feel, I am. Right? When a thought appears, that same thought eventually disappears and is replaced with another thought. Do we disappear with the first thought? Is it our experience that we witness a thought when it appears and then lose ourselves when the thought disappears? Or is it our experience that we're always there, witnessing the events as they rise and fall? Experiences come and go, but do we come and go with them? When we experience thoughts, we separate ourselves. So I'm talking about I, the ruh, the witnessing presence, not I, the body mind. You have to distinguish, otherwise you'll be confused. Experiences come and go, but do we, the ruh, come and go with them? When we experience thoughts, we separate ourselves from the rising thoughts by saying something like, I thought that you were coming tonight, or I thought that you cared about me. There is an I that thinks. This I can't be the thought itself because it claims ownership of the thought. There's space there, right? There is the thought and the I that had it. This means we cannot be our thoughts. We are that which witnesses or observes thought. Alimul ghaybi wash-shahada, the witnessing. What about our physical bodies? Are we our bodies? Let's examine that thought for a minute. When our heads or bodies hurt, we say things like, my head hurts, or my body aches. Something is claiming ownership of the body. When we say my head, we're saying the head belongs to us. So it follows that we can't be our heads or our bodies. Let's repeat this thought process with our feelings. We find ourselves saying things like, I feel hungry, or I feel tired. Something is claiming ownership of our sensations or feelings. The hunger or fatigue belongs to the I that claims it. Hence, it follows that we are not our feelings. That which experiences thoughts, feelings, and perceptions doesn't end every time a feeling, thought, or perception comes to an end. That which witnesses experience is always there. Even in deep sleep, when mind activity comes to a halt, something is aware of the fact that time wasn't present. So what is it that's aware of experience that comes and goes, aware of time that comes and goes, but itself doesn't come and go? It never comes to an end. It's not born, and it never ends, because it's God's command, the ruh. It's everlasting, but not in time, for it is not limited by time. Because everlasting gives the notion that it's like within time, but no. Ever present, everlasting just is not limited by time. What does it sound like I'm describing here? If it sounds like Allah's attributes, then keep reading. There's a hadith Qudsi that is often misinterpreted. It states, عن أبي هريرة عن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم قال لا تسبوا الدهر فإن الله هو الدهر. It's a hadith that says, qalb is the battleground between nafs and ruh, and people that, the thing is, brother wisdom or wisdom, sorry if I'm, crucifying your name here, but like, they're all the same thing, bro. Everything is a modulation of ruh. The nafs is what the ruh is when it's experienced as the body mind. Aqil when it's directed towards intelligibles. The form, khalq, is just that, an appearance. The reality of it is God's amr, the ruh. The ruh, so to speak, modulates, vibrates as body-mind. So it appears as body-mind, but the wave is not separate from the ocean. You can't say the wave is an expression of the ocean. They're both made from the same water. Right? So careful when you say qalb is the... Yes, and if you know what you're talking about, there's a place for these terms. Qalb, and read Allahu nuru samawati wal ard mathalu nurihi kamishkatin فيها مصباح المصباح في زجاجة. So there's a play of God's light, that sort of a prism that refracts that light to give the colors of, experience. But the nur of Allah is colorless. So here, Abu Hurairah reports that Rasulullah ﷺ said, do not curse time, for it is Allah who is time. In Sahih Muslim, the word dahr in Arabic, though often translated as time, is not time. Zaman or waqt is time. Dahr is the present moment. It is the infinite now. It is 1 over time, as time or t, we want time to approach 0 because there's no time. So what's 1 over something approaching 0? Meaning, as the denominator is getting infinitely smaller and smaller and smaller, what will happen to the whole number? When you divide something by a number, and that number you're dividing it by is getting smaller and smaller, the smaller the denominator, the bigger the result. So if the denominator is getting infinitesimally small, then the whole the answer is approaching infinity. So, as an engineer and anybody that studied calculus, exactly. But for some people, this might be like a bit too much. Forgive me, but we have to go through it. That's why I give the warning that this section is deep. So for some people, it's going to be like they just unlocked heaven, For some people, it's like, it's too much, man. I feel like I'm just like stoned after this section. It is the infinite now. It is 1 over time as time or t approaches 0. When time is there, meaning the ego or mind is active with experience, the value for time is 1. And so 1 over 1 equals 1, which is the egocentric I. The less we are caught up in experience, the faster time begins to approach 0. The faster we approach infinity, the less we are caught up in experience, the less you're letting what's happening to you in life bother you and get to you, the faster time begins to approach 0, meaning the faster it comes to an end. And the faster we approach infinity, okay, jump onto YouTube I'm almost done, I'm wrapping up. But please jump onto YouTube if this Instagram comes to an end, okay? It says, the less we're caught up in experience, the faster time begins to approach 0, meaning the faster time comes to an end, because you're less caught up with mind activity, the ruh, so to speak. So the faster we approach infinity, or the nearer we feel to Allah. Because it's the ego mind that stands between you and God. When you're less caught up with the thoughts in your head, you're more present. And who's here and now? وَنَحْنُ أَقْرَبُ إِلَيْهِ مِنْ حَبْلِ الْوَرِيدِ. We are closer to Him than His own self, Allah says. The jugular vein that supplies blood is basically your lifeline. So if Allah is saying, I'm closer to you than your own lifeline, so you're getting in God's way, basically. You want to be God's medium to shine in the world. So how do you do that? You polish your mirror. The mirror has to be transparent to reflect God's light. Otherwise, every time you sin, a black spot appears on the heart, the Prophet ﷺ said, meaning your heart becomes less and less able to transmit that light because it won't reflect it. Because what will a black mirror reflect? What kind of light will it reflect? So you've got to polish it with dhikr and removing haram from your life. So these people that just want to be present and close to Allah, yeah, sure, Allah might give you glimpses to that reality, but to be stationed in a state of presence, you're not going to achieve that while your life is filled with haram. But it's not the end of the world. Don't jump off of a bridge or something. Like, make tawbah, start to slowly, fix things one by one from your life, and inshallah you'll see the difference before you know it, right? Brother making me feel trippy and guilty. Just, don't know what to tell you. So let's wrap up. So infinity, Allah is the infinite witnessing presence. Allah is the dahr. Allah is the eternal now. His amr How else could he be closer to us than ourselves? The now is not an infinitesimal unit of time, and there is not a series of moments. The now is timeless, and there is only one moment in which all experience manifests. Think of Allah as the infinite witnessing canvas of experience. The images and drawings on the canvas are experiences. Experience is simply the coloring of the canvas. Another way to think about this is as an infinite screen. The movie on the screen is never in parts. It's the movie on the screen that appears in form and multiplicity, and it seems to be divided. There's no divisions in the screen itself. It just takes on the coloring of the pixels, basically. Give the movie its appearance, but there's no reality to the movie, just like there's no reality to your body-mind. Just like the screen is the reality of the movie, the ruh is the reality of your khalq, your form. All you find is one indivisible screen that momentarily takes on the shape of all these different images on the movie. All there is to experience is the screen. You can't say that the movie is separate from the screen. The movie doesn't exist apart from the screen on which it plays or stand out from the screen. The word exist in Latin means to stand out from. Rupert Spira mentions this as well. The movie is simply the coloring of the screen, yet the experience of the movie cannot exist without the screen. In the same way, the world doesn't stand out from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It doesn't have real existence. The world is the activity or the act of Allah. Dunya is God's motion picture. Who wants some tickets? هذا خلق الله أي هذا فعل الله فأروني ماذا خلق الذين من دونه بل الظالمون في ضلال مبين. This is Allah's creation. Now show me what those gods other than Him have created. In fact, the wrongdoers are clearly astray. Imam Ghazali says هذا خلق الله means هذا فعل الله, meaning all the created realm is the act of Allah. So if Allah is the witnessing presence, if He is the witnessing eye, then what am I? Am I Allah? Astaghfirullah. We are not one with God. Listen, because this is where most people drop it. And they start talking about oneness of being, and they don't get what they're talking about. They just want to sound smart. Okay? Listen. You are not God. You're not there in reality. You have no existence. You subsist. So we are not the nafs. The nafs is what I'm talking about. Astaghfirullah. We are not one with God, and we are definitely not God. In the full spectrum of reality, we're not really there. We don't exist. There is no spoon. Neo. We don't exist. We simply subsist through Allah. We are through God's command. We are the action of Allah, the act, the fi'l, the khalq. It is critically important that we do not mix the essence of Allah with His actions. Allah is not the created realm, but the created realm is made from His command, kun, be. He can neither be bounded by nor limited by any of His creations. Time and space are His creations, and He subhanahu wa ta'ala is beyond space and time. Time is what eternity looks like when it is viewed through the lens of the finite mind, and space is what infinity looks like when it's viewed through the lens of the finite mind. Remove the mind and you're left with the presence of God. To borrow a concept from the domain of electricity and electronics, think of the mind as a resistor and the presence of Allah as current. وَلِلَّهِ الْمَثَلُ الْأَعْلَى. I equals V over R. Current equals voltage over resistance. The higher the resistance, mind, the lower the current. The lower the resistance, the more we can sense the presence of Allah. What are you resisting or not resisting? The present moment, the now. Why is the mind resisting it? It doesn't like it because it can't access it, because the mind is a construct of past and future. It can't grab the now. The minute it tries to, it's trapped in time. To experience the now, we need to stop traveling in time and be present. Before you start thinking this is all woo-hoo, new age spirituality stuff, here, what on earth? Time travel? We thought that was impossible. I assure you, time travel is not impossible. Allah knows best, but in my opinion, we're time traveling every single day. Every time we drift in thought, we're traveling in time. We're lost in the wormhole of time. Through dhikr or remembrance, we snap out of our minds or out of time. It helps to think of time as experience and the now or the timeless present moment as the recording witness of our responses to experience. وَهُوَ مَعَكُمْ أَيْنَمَا كُنْتُمْ. And He, capital H, is with you wherever you are. In time, a thought appears, and that thought has the potential to instigate an action with a particular intention. Good intentions can yield righteous actions, while bad intentions can yield devious actions. The moment we make a good intention to act upon a thought and or act upon that thought, our intention and action are recorded in our book of deeds called Kitab. Kitab. Allah is keeping tabs on you. Kitab. Allah is keeping tabs on you, which keeps tabs on us. If the moment is timeless and the past and the present are just an illusion and all experience unfolds here and now, then it's not really how we spend our time on this earth that matters, but rather how we respond to the experiences that Allah downloads or generates. Tanzeel, Allah says, Tanzeelun min, Tanzeel, downloaded from. The experiences are downloaded, the ayat, the dhikrul hakim, downloads or generates in our minds. The downloads of experience are of two types: experiences that are from Allah to us and those that are from Allah in us. We can't, and let's finish up with this paragraph, we can't control what's from Allah to us or what's from Allah in us. Examples of things that are from Allah to us include the family we're born into or the car crash that left us severely injured. What's from Allah in us are things like our heart pumping or our liver functioning. We have no control over any of those things, neither the things from Allah to us nor from Allah in us. But now, what we will be questioned are al-af'al al-ikhtiyariyah, laysa al-ijbariyah. That we will be questioned about are our uploads, the actions that are from us to Allah. Things like whether we decide to pray or not, and whether we fasted or not, or whether we lied to our bosses or not, or whether we lied to our wives or not, which is permissible, by the way. Every man, you should note this down. You are allowed to lie to your wife in certain instances, but you should learn. It doesn't mean you lie and deceive her. When she wears that beautiful dress and comes to you and says, "How do I look?" Don't tell her she looks like a garbage can here. You tell her she looks incredible. Even if she looks bad, you never tell her she looks bad. This you're allowed to lie on, okay? Taban, you should do it in a way where it's genuine and hada, but like I'm being a bit facetious and exaggerating a bit to make the point. But ultimately, there are times where you're allowed to lie. To just, because women are more emotional than men, so you have to kind of guard those emotions. And of course, I know all the feminists in you are like, well, do we get to lie to the men too? I don't know, ask your local scholar, see what he tells you about that. I'm sure there are times where you shouldn't also break your man's heart, like the lady that asked me for crying out loud on Instagram. My husband uses, I discovered, or maybe I shouldn't. Yeah, I discovered that he uses the super blue pill, the V word, right? And should I let him know that I'm in on his secret? And I said something to the effect that basically, don't break his ego. Poor guy, you're not really lying, but you don't have to go and tell him that you know. The guy, I said something to the effect like if he thinks he's a Ferrari, but he needed a little bit of an engine boost or something like that, let the guy, turn on the nitrous oxide. It's all good, inshallah. Just sit back and enjoy the ride. Things like whether we prayed or not, downloads. Good uploads often lead to favorable downloads or circumstances from Allah, while poor uploads often lead to unfavorable downloads or circumstances from Allah. Let's stop there, inshallah ta'ala. So we stopped it. Can someone record this? Sister Manal, I'm going to ask you because you're mashallah, you're always attending the classes and taking notes and stuff. Page 133, inshallah ta'ala. Page 133, the uploads and downloads of destiny, where we'll talk about the black mirror and qadar and destiny. I'll go deep into destiny because most people really don't understand how that works. They think they do. Brother, if Allah decided on everything, why am I being put on hell? Who told you? There are things the decisions that you're going to make, that you're going to be held accountable for. But I'll get into the details later, inshallah. Wow, kitab. Yes, kitab. The key and the tab. Keeping tab, yes. I'd rather him be honest, but I don't have a feedback person. That cracked me up. I'm saying Allah created time. The fact that Adam assigned a timeline of 20,000, how else would he know? Okay, so too complicated. Sure. Not me catching the live nearing the end. These always happen when I'm at work. Yeah, that's okay. These are recorded, sister or brother. I don't know who RA is. Yeah, sorry, you have a black icon, so it wasn't appearing as a separate from Minal. So, okay, RA, just, you have it recorded. You missed a superb live. Hopefully he saves it. Yeah, they're saved, Habibi. When will the next live be? The next one will be for the Book of Wisdoms, inshallah, on Saturday. And that brings me to the final. MashaAllah, the sign-ups for the thing have been incredible. Jazakumullah khair for the spiritual cleanse. I might have to close it soon. So for the 10-day cleanse, anybody that hasn't signed up yet, is it still on my Instagram thing? Not sure if it's still on Instagram. Let's see. Is it? Did I lose the story or is it still there? Okay, it's still there, alhamdulillah. Let's save it under cleanse and cleanse. So go to my Instagram and in my stories, you'll find it. But for those that don't have access to it, inshallah, let me grab you the link. So, oops, not that one. Okay. Yeah, that one. So here you go. It's also in my bio, but for some people don't have Instagram, so I'm going to put it here nevertheless. So you can access and pay for it, and then on the 27th, I'll shoot out the email with the guide and everything, and then there's a live. I'm going to go through the guide. Some people are like, ha ha ha, the glitch in the matrix, and I got the guide. The guide is... It's not about you having the PDF, brothers and sisters. It's about the actual experience of us going through the thing together and actually like the live, the explanations, the daily meetings on Zoom, the WhatsApp group. It might be a Discord group just so I can turn on video if I need to or voice messages. It's going to be, I'm so excited about it. Inshallah, we'll have someone for a cleanse for beginners or for those who can't access our new Muslims, but for now, this is it. Jazakumullah khair. I'm very excited to kick it off. The good news is I'm going to be traveling and I'm going to do the cleanse from the company of my own teacher. So I'm very excited about that. Alhamdulillah. So if all I can tell you is, if you don't sign up for it, you're missing out, especially if you can, unless you have some major event in your life. Sign up for it. I promise you it's going to be life-changing because it changed my life around 180 degrees. Jazakumullah khair. Love you all for the sake of Allah. Thank you for joining. Thank you for those who donated. Stay tuned for that email. Purchase the cleanse. My book's on Amazon, The Afterlife Manual, for those that want to buy it. And assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Subhanakallahumma bihamdik. Nashhadu an la ilaha illa ant. Nastaghfiruka wa natubu ilayk.